Welcome to my kitchen. We're going to be making sourdough, gluten-free and vegan. Let's get started. We're going to make the pre-ferment. Zero your scale and change the unit to grams. We'll need 150 grams of starter at peak rise. So ideally, feed it about 4 hours before you want to start. And I'll feed my starter later. Now we need some water and brown rice flour. And 100 grams of water. Now stir this together. You can let the pre-ferment set for anywhere from 0 to 24 hours. I've done it all the way along the spectrum, and the longer you let it set, the more sour it is. But it's good at all points, in my opinion. When you're letting it set, just cover it with a towel. And I like to place a rubber band over it, just like that. Alright, let's make our liquids. We need water, 300 grams. And now Psyllium Husk, we need 20 grams. I've made this right inside the pre-ferment before, just adding it straight there, and it works that way too. But for starters, feel free to do it separately just to get everything straight. 20 grams. Since I forgot to clear it in between, I'll just add that to the 300 of water for 320. Alright, there we go. Now we'll go ahead and give this a whisk. And the Psyllium Husk is non-substitutable. This is an essential ingredient. It'll act as the binder, kind of like the gluten does in regular bread. Also, we can add the oil here, oil and honey. Oil is optional. You can put 8 to 15 grams in. Oops, a little more, but that'll be okay. This helps make the crust not quite as stiff and hard. I like this recipe because it is a little flexible. If you have like 5 grams more of oil, it's not gonna mess it up. And I'm gonna use honey here, 20 grams, but you can also use other sweeteners like agave, molasses, sorghum syrup. Yeah, I've used a lot of different things and it's worked. I'm gonna go ahead and mix in the oil and honey. You can already see it starting to thicken up. Alright, now we're going to combine our flours. So we're going to start with brown rice flour. It needs 80 grams, and you can play around with the flours. I am using brown rice and sorghum. I've done all brown rice and all sorghum before, and it's worked just fine. It also works with other things. You can try like cornmeal, and various other flours. But of course, it's good to try it, with these two flours at first because they are very reliable. Then you'll know what you're after and you can compare. You need 80 of sorghum too, or if you're experimenting, it'll be 160 of whatever flour or flour combination you use. Now we're going to get the starches. We need potato starch and tapioca starch. Alright, we're going to put in 60 of tapioca. And I have done this with all tapioca and with all potato starch, one or the other, and it's worked just fine. And then 80 of potato starch. Alright, the final ingredient is salt. So we want 12 grams of salt. Alright, and we'll stir this up. Now we're going to mix together our psyllium, which you can see has gelled quite a bit, into our pre-ferment. Next we'll add our flour. I have in the past accidentally omitted the salt, and it still has great texture, but it doesn't taste as good, so make sure you add the salt. If you accidentally forget it, just like use it with mayo, and the mayo will cover for the lack of salt. I've also accidentally forgotten the honey in the past, and it raises slightly less, but it's still okay. Alright, that's somewhat combined. I'm gonna knead it on the counter now. It doesn't need to be kneaded for very long, just until it's thoroughly combined, no longer than 5 minutes. It can start to get extra sticky if you over knead it. Alright, now I'm looking for a nice smooth side to put down, and I put it in the bowl to raise. I think this looks nice and smooth. So I'm going to take my towel, put it in a small bowl, and add a little starch flour just to make it so it doesn't stick. Let it rise for 4 hours, then we'll bake.
Once the bread has risen for about 3.5 hours, preheat the oven to 425. Add your Dutch oven inside while the oven is preheating. Allow it to heat up for at least 30 minutes, up to an hour. I've also done it without much preheating, and it's worked also. After 4 hours of rising time, or until your bread dough has doubled, go ahead and gently transfer the dough from the bowl onto a silicone baking mat or a piece of parchment paper. Use a knife to score in whatever design you desire, and then brush off the flour. You can also do this before the scoring, which will actually be better. Use the parchment paper or silicone sheet to move the dough into the Dutch oven. Replace the lid and put it in the oven. Bake for about an hour and a half. I like to do 60 minutes covered and 20 minutes uncovered. But if you do all uncovered or all covered, that will also work. The covered entirely will allow for a slightly softer crust. Uncovered may bake a little bit too quickly, not allowing for as full of expansion, but I've tried it both ways and it works just fine. So let me know in the comments below what you decided to do. Did you do uncovered or covered, and how long did you bake it for if you did a combination of both?
Very nicely crusty. Check out that bread. Wow.
And while you're at it, please like and subscribe. Push that notifications button. And one last thing. It's very important to let the bread sit for 4 hours before you cut it after it bakes. The bread finishes baking out of the oven. So hold your horses, don't get too excited, and just wait until it's completely cooled before you cut it. And then enjoy the most delicious bread you've had since going gluten-free.